Mario and Luigi. Those of you who've watched my channel for a while probably know how much I love this series. Of course, aside from being funny handheld Mario RPGs, I've also constantly praised just how engaging the battle system is. In recent years, I've come to realize that Superstar Saga is actually my favorite one. Didn't have any overarching gimmicks, didn't try to focus on another character. It was just a simple, charming adventure in the Bean Bean Kingdom with just the Mario Bros. And back then, that inherent simplicity of the premise gave me inspiration, specifically to buy some Mario and Luigi plushes from GameStop to play around and make videos with them. And that quickly spiraled into a plush channel that kinda changed my life. But enough of that. Alpha Dream. Between the first entry and their eventual death, they only worked on Mario and Luigi. But before that, they were making a bit of whatever. Hamtaro, this strange Japan-exclusive Kododama card-based RPG, which I don't really see anyone talk about. But it seems that aside from Mario and Luigi, people most fondly remember them making a little game known as Tomato Adventure. Since its release in 2002, it's had a bit of a legacy in Nintendo history, most notably with its characters ending up at Smash Ultimate as spirits, and even DeMille, the main character, showing up in Brawl's fighter polls. Wow. For the longest time, I've always known about this weird little RPG as just the Alpha Dream game that came before Mario and Luigi, and nothing else. I've always really wanted to try it. From the endless intrigue of having a vague screenshot of what it was in my mind, I've always wanted to see what the hell this thing was, from start to finish, see what's hidden inside of it. Well, it makes sense why it took so long. Tomato Adventure was never released outside of Japan, of course, but actually semi-recently in 2021, a full English fan translation did come out. I remember for the longest time this game did have a patch that was worked on at some point, but it wasn't even close to being finished. It was headed by Clyde Mandolin, who goes by Tomato Online. How fitting. You might know him for leading the Mother 3 fan translation, and damn, that's a pretty worthy thing to be known for. In 2016, it became an open source project asking for anyone to take up the job of finishing it. And I guess all this time later, it's finally here, thanks to the additional work of DeMille, Crazy MLC, and Unknown W Brackets. I seriously have to give massive props to them and whoever else might have been involved for finally finishing this. You know, who cares if Tomato Adventure is so obscure? If a game like this has even a tiny audience of passionate fans wanting to play and understand the game, regardless of if the publishers originally didn't see it fit with Western audiences, then yeah, it's possible. So, let's get to it. I'm really excited. I will give a heads up though. If you do already know about Tomato Adventure and you already know you want to play it, then I'd actually skip out on watching the rest of this video. Because while I'm not going to go into detail about all the individual scenarios, I'll still be showing footage of areas that you might end up regret seeing without playing first. But if you don't care, then let's just see what this little RPG is hiding after all these years. First thing you see is a little intro. I actually like this, showing the main characters, and you know, it's very simple, but just kinda cute, I guess, with the music too. And there's the logo. Actually looks really good for being fan-made. We start off with a little cutscene. Today is the Tomatoversary, and here we see the antagonist, King Abira. God, I'm not sure about his design, honestly. I think he's supposed to be just like this weird-looking baby with slippers and a diaper, but I don't know. That's just strange. I don't know. But anyways, he's here to show off his new invention, the Super Karateka! Okay, so apparently he's able to let children live as children forever. we cut back to DeMille, the protagonist, watching the broadcast on TV, and despite living in a place literally called the Ketchup Kingdom, he hates tomatoes. So he's been living down here in the spillage, where anyone who doesn't like tomatoes, known as droppers, are essentially forced to live there too. Soon DeMille and his girlfriend Pasaran go out on a little quest, not without some trouble from the spillage guard. They're out there to find the Gimmick Robo at Toy Ruins, until she gets kidnapped by this UFO airship. Turns out the reason for all of this is that Pasaran has what's called the soul energy split into 5 different parts, which are vital to powering the super carrot cooker. I think? Not sure. It turns out Abira plans to use the machine to actually turn everyone into mere toys. Yikes. And you do get reminded of Pasaran after completing each area with the new spy data, showing one of her energies being sucked up. So now you gotta go save her, but you can't just barge into the Gimmick Palace. Nah, you gotta get all the toy parts from defeating all 6 of the super kids scattered around the kingdom. And that's it. Go on an adventure, meet new characters, get into weird scenarios, and retrieve those toy parts. Pretty simple, go get the things premise, right? Very silly. And at its core, Tomato Adventure is also a simple RPG. Every staple you'd expect is here, with one major twist: the gimmicks. They're your main attacks, which are supposed to be toys, I guess, and to execute them properly, you gotta do some kind of tiny little minigame. I've seen people describe it as just like a little bit of WarioWare sprinkled onto an RPG. And yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe it. The game likes to categorize these too, like the tap and timing gimmicks, a lot of memorization based ones as well. I'd say they're all serviceable, except for the volcano one, which is just Russian roulette and it's lame. Along the way, you'll be receiving a few at a time by stopping with one of the Hanzo brothers. It's like a little break after each area, you know? And with the 3 additional party members you eventually meet, you'll also have some extra variety. Like Alessa's gimmicks are mostly like invention gadget-based malarkey, and Safubi's being based on weather for some reason. That's kinda neat. Every party member has their own strengths and weaknesses, and I feel like they are all balanced in their own right. I do like Alessa's little dance she does in battle though. I think the biggest praise I can give for the gimmicks is how you can control the difficulty for each one. That's just kinda cool. See, I've always adored Superstar Saga's Bros attacks for being the best, but also being the only Mario Luigi game where you can also control the difficulty. It may not be the most versatile option in history, but it's still nice to have. And here, it's up to you to set it to a level that's not too easy, but also not too hard where you can never perform the attacks consistently. But you might be asking, why? Aside from risk and reward, if you fail, they still do damage, albeit much less. Well, that's where the awe meter comes into play. You store the meter up by properly executing your gimmicks a bunch in a row, but if you miss even one, it all goes away. So you really gotta be careful, especially if you wanna try to charge up 2 gears at once. But it's worth it to level it up, since the awe attacks are pretty awesome, damage-wise, but also just as a visual spectacle. Like, dude, look at these animations! It's all such a treat. And oh my god, I love this one with Safubi that plays out like a weather report. A weather report! Dude, that is just so silly but amazing. Though, even with all of this, I feel like battling can get repetitive. This is like the biggest issue with RPGs, at least for me, and probably a lot of others too. I can usually get through standard-ass turn-based combat if the story and setting are still really interesting. But if it's just kind of meh, then the combat has to outweigh that, you know what I mean? So, I always praise when games can switch up such a done-to-death formula at least just a little bit. And in Tomato Adventure, it does an okay job, I feel like. I appreciate Alpha Dream for trying something different, but it won't be long before you might get bored of the constant battle encounters. So, you know, thank God for being able to avoid enemies in the overworld, and that run button, that is literally just a run button. None of that dumbass shit from Mario and Luigi where you have to tap the button to run, and you lose coins. Oops. Nah, here, you just run and it always works. Can more RPGs please have this? Like please? God. Ooh, okay, so yeah, I feel like with the gimmicks, the fact that you can only equip 4 to a character and can only have 2 members at once, yeah, you're gonna be doing the same gimmicks over and over. It's kinda bleh after a while. And on top of that, this game is like super duper easy. It feels really easy to just overpower yourself with those cells and volts the game is constantly giving you to power up your gimmicks. You know what, I can excuse all of that though, since I feel like Tomato Adventure makes up for all of this with its charm, but we'll get to that later. For now, the battles feel somewhat primitive, while also having a neat twist I still appreciate for trying to make it a little more engaging. Still, they could have done a bit more in my opinion. And yeah, speaking of general primitiveness, you might have noticed that despite sharing the same console as Superstar Saga, the Tomato Adventure kind of looks much more old school. I mean, look at that battle layout. That just kind of screams old NES RPG. And these rooms you traverse, most of the time they're just like horizontal ass hallways. It's not like you're never gonna do anything interactive in the overworld though. There are a few minigames, yeah, although I was still confused at just the layout of these areas. But that's when I realized what this game started out as. A Game Boy Color game. The footage you're seeing here is taken from a late prototype when it was simply named Gimmicland before it was converted to GBA, found from the great, almighty, life-changing Earthbound 64 list Nintendo Giga League of 2020. And man, it's really interesting. Everything here is intact. It's just been charmingly demade to fit that Game Boy Color palette and sound capabilities with the chiptune too. This prototype leak becomes even cooler when you realize that there were only two blurry-ass, low-quality-ass screenshots to ever exist of this build before the leak came around. And now we have the entire game. How cool is that? Right after Alpha Dream finished this version, the Game Boy Advance was released, making the system prior basically obsolete. But after seeing their impressive work on the prototype, Nintendo came in wanting to publish it, requesting the developers to remaster it for the new console and heavily upgrade the presentation. During this process, there were also a few other major changes requested. One, to add recognizable characters, the Toma Trio, for marketing, and two, to change the name from Gimmicland to Tomato Adventure. Despite having a bunch of work put into it, especially backed up by Nintendo, it never made it outside of Japan. Apparently, this was because the game had a target age group deemed too low, which is stupid, honestly. But hey, now that I know about this game's rusty 8-bit origins, I can kind of forgive why a lot of the gameplay might seem more basic than you think. And even if this game was originally restricted by its bleak hardware, I'd say it makes up for it so damn much with all of its personality. I think the best way I'd describe Tomato Adventure is that it's just very silly. It definitely has a lot of humor tucked in. To give you a bit of an idea, there are so many fourth wall breaks and times where it just straight up trolls you. I've always loved the idea of a deleting save file fake out, but kind of a missed opportunity there. Kind of wish it actually sent you back to the title screen, so it's like, okay, neat joke at first, but then you press start, and it's like, what? And that's where it's like, just kidding. But, whatever. It's fine as is, I guess. I also gotta give so much praise to just how imaginative this game feels. Kinda like Superstar Saga with how all of its locations are named after laughs, this time it's named after condiments and other food-related items. Some of these places are pretty damn cool in concept. I think my favorite, by far, has gotta be Tartar Valley. I love how it goes for this spooky atmosphere while also being very playful and adorable. Like, man, just look at some of the sprite work they did for the houses, being these weird abominations that are also super cute. It just all has so much personality. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if this game secretly inspired something like Omori. You know how that game has those vivid dream worlds with weird creatures acting as the houses, that kind of thing. This idea of a dreamlike world is also seen with this cake area called Oist Town. I love these snakes. The game calls them banana condas, and like the name suggests, you have to give them bananas to transport via their stomach. And I love how every time you give them one, they're always like, please be eaten! That is just so adorable, dude. And then there's the Balsamic Dome. Being the last place you explore before the final dungeon, it really feels like the team just kind of cobbled a bunch of ideas together into one that they had lying around for the whole development period and just said, yeah, here you go. Just a bunch of random ass shit. It gets kind of trippy too, while having this genuinely cool theme of balance and exploring mirrored realities in your dreams, with this moonside looking area where you gotta solve puzzles based on that concept. And that's not even scratching the surface of what else lies in your adventure. You're gonna be exploring this lagoon where you gotta retrieve lightning for a crazy rock band, traveling into a sunken pirate ship themed around Christmas, a pink pyramid-like palace where beauty is the only thing that matters, and this cool-ass cyberspace city with highways where you intrude a bank. And along your journey, you're gonna meet plenty of new weird characters, all equally wacky and humorous. I really have to give props to Alpha Dream for making this world, you know? And tying it all together with an art style that is just really good looking. Well, I at least felt like I should bring it up. I've always thought Alpha Dream was just really damn good at making visually appealing background art in their games, I guess, more so pointing out their GBA games. In Tomato Adventure, everything just has a very soft look to it. That's really the best way I describe it. It's clean, but also eye-catching. I love the big, bold black outlines around everything. It all adds a lot of character and meshes so well together. And aside from the art direction and sound, fans will definitely notice similarities between this and Mario Luigi. You know how a lot of the bosses have multiple targets, characters always dance across the screen and emphasize their words in big, bold letters, recurring villains that constantly fight you for no reason, and of course, tutorials and long-ass finale sections. It just seems to be the bread and butter of Alpha Dream games, you know? I think you get the point, the list goes on and on. But even if these two kinds of RPGs were made by the same people, I'd say they did a really good freaking job of also making it distinct. The enemies. Dude, these are just things you wouldn't see in the Mario and Luigi games. They get really strange sometimes. And that kinda goes same for all the main character designs. Don't know why, but I love all of them. They're very kitty-like, I guess, but hey, I love this little dude with the cool hair, Relic, he's kinda neat. And this guy, Safubi, with his purple tie, snazzy as hell, he was also cool. Even though I didn't really like how most of his character kinda boiled down to just, oh, he's very big and likes to eat a lot, like, it was kinda redundant. But the world of the Ketchup Kingdom, man! Alpha Dream kinda knocked it out of the park with just how original it feels. And at the very, very least, it proved that they were capable of making completely original games too. After this game, they obviously went on to make Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. A huge hit, and a huge honor to work with Nintendo on that. But then afterwards, they worked on nothing else aside from Hamtaro. But oh my god! This gets even more painful when you remember that, oh yeah, they eventually went bankrupt. Their ending legacy was a remake for a game that no one really asked for, released for a dead-ass system, and sold dog poop. Just one disastrous financial decision I can say is probably one of, if not the saddest way a video game company can just go out. Never gonna get over this, dude. Especially when you realize they had all this time. They could have done something else. I love Mario and Luigi. I cherish that series. I'm glad we got so many games, but it kind of seems like they started to only work on those entries for mostly contract reasons. Like Nintendo repeatedly came knocking on their door asking, hey, when's that next Mario RPG, huh? Though I'm not entirely sure if that's how that business works, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alpha Dream kept making those games, partly because it was a huge monetary success. But man, even still, they had potential through the roof with what they crafted before, all the way back in 2002. In just this small little RPG everyone forgot about. I mean, could you imagine what a Tomato Adventure remake would have looked like? That would have been so awesome. I mean, it might not have sold very well, but it would have at least opened the door for a sequel, right? Which, by the way, not to spoil anything, but this game's ending does hint at one. Totally possible it's a joke, but regardless, still really sad. I think in a lot of ways, this game has way more personality than Mario and Luigi. Yeah, I go that far. I mean, at least have more potential. At the very least, the concept of the Ketchup Kingdom and its many locales is a lot more creative, I feel like. This game just has its own flavor, packed in with its own kinda slapstick and goof, and it's a slightly different flavor than what most are used to with Alpha Dream's subsequent work. So yeah, that's actually where I'm gonna stop talking, cause I wanna take the time to tell you to play this game. Like, come on, I'd say Tomato Adventure is definitely not one of the most groundbreaking RPGs I've experienced, not super special in the gameplay department. I don't expect something as fleshed out as Mario and Luigi, but man, definitely expect just a neat little RPG with a boatload of character. It is very lighthearted and admittedly overtly kid-friendly, but hell, I'd even say it's definitely up there as just a unique creative scenario-based video game experience. Maybe not as wacky as something like Earthbound, but still definitely a joy to run through. And nowadays, you have no excuse not to play it. That fan translation, man, I cannot stress enough how cool it is that anyone can just download it, patch it, and load it up into an emulator or maybe even a flashcard, and just experience the whole thing. This one's really high quality too. It feels like it retains all the jokes it originally had, which is great. Clearly all of that hard work came from pure passion too. It's also a fairly short RPG, at least it feels that way. It took me 14 hours to beat, but the pace is pretty brisk. Even then, you do have side quests, which I was kinda surprised by considering the game started out on such a small 8-bit console. You got this card game called Gimmicks. I honestly didn't care for it much at all. I mean, it's there, and you probably get good equipment from it, but I don't know. Card games, not really my thing, honestly. Being upfront, I don't think there will ever be a sequel to Tomato Adventure, but on another topic, I also don't think the death of Alpha Dream means the death of Alpha Dream, if you know what I mean. It's not like all the developers suddenly just ceased to exist the moment they filed for bankruptcy. We've had plenty of moments in the past where former employees of a defunct company come back to make another game in the same vein as their prior work. And I really do hope that happens with Alpha Dream. That would be cool as hell. Obviously, Tomato Adventure has an extremely small fanbase, especially considering that English patch only came out 2 years ago. It makes sense. That's also why this video felt a lot shorter and much more broad. Sorry about that. But hey, for those of you who haven't played the game yet, think of this moment right now as an opportunity to finally experience it. If we never ever get a sequel, re-release, or really any substantial acknowledgement of this hidden gem in the future, then I think we can at least honor the game itself by just simply playing it. So, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.